enough to do. Cover my face, cover my shame, cover my skin, protect my name. I hated my dad for being brown, he was to blame. I used to pray to be white, wanting to be right. Watched my dad's head pissing my blood that night.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Egbon podcast, where we have candid conversations with migrants or children of migrants who are doing very well in their careers in the hopes to inspire the next generation of dreamers. Today, we are joined by the incredible, award-winning British Indian theater maker, Conrad Murray.
How's it going, man? You good?
Very, very good. Welcome.
Yes.
Conrad is an incredible theater maker, writer, director, musical composer whose work has been featured in magazines and toured around the country.
Yeah.
He's worked in shows like Peter Pan, Pied Piper. He's currently working on Deep Azur,
Yes.
Chadwick Boseman's Deep Azur at the Shakespeare's Globe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big things, mad things.
Yeah. You're also one of the pioneers of hip hop theater in the UK.
That's what I say.
Which is pretty awesome. And I felt like we had to have you on the podcast to kind of talk about what you do, talk about your heritage, and just kind of you got to where you are today.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, of course.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Before we continue with this incredible conversation, I would kindly ask you to like and subscribe. It's important for the channel to grow, so please do it.
Well, since you're working on Deep Azur, Chadwick Boseman's incredible piece at the Shakespeare's Globe right now, I just figured we should start with that.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, how did you get involved in the show, and what is the show about, and what are you specifically doing in the show?
I was hollered at by Tristan and people at the Globe, and then said, are you interested in doing like an R&D kind of process on it and running some kind of audition workshop days? And I was thinking, Tristan, or he's done a big show before for Black Boys, and then Chadwick Boseman was kind of ringing in my ear like, what, Black Panther?
Yeah.
Wakanda. Okay.
T'Challa.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And then just got in a room and was just doing some beatboxing, vocal things with the performers. And what excites me about it is that it is credited as a hip hop theater play.
Yeah.
And even before this, like in my book, I'd already kind of like shouted out the text that Chadwick Boseman's play was in, because I was aware that like he wanted to push. I always thought it was really cool that he's such a celebrity but had this background in hip hop theater and lyricism and poetry. So I was aware of that, and then to be part of it, to know that like he was also trying to like just tread these different paths to kind of elevate hip hop culture.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, it kind of feels natural that I'd be part of it, because this is kind of like where I've been operating in my realm and kind of adding that influence. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you kind of want to talk about what the show is about a bit?
Yeah, the show is this story. I don't want to give away too many spoilers.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of people know like about the story of the show. But it's about injustice, and it's about friendship, and it's about grieving, and it's told through rhyme and words and rap and beats and music. And like the cast are incredible. Like the auditions were crazy. Some of the people that came through were crazy. Like big names wanted to be part of this, and we got big names in the cast. Shout out to Amanita Francis and all the rest of the crew. But yeah, it's a deep show. It's about dealing with police brutality. So it's got a lot of, it's very nuanced. And I actually think people be surprised at how nuanced the show is. It's not like, oh yeah, this the bad guy. Boom.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't expect that from Chadwick Boseman as well, you know? He was kind of a deep thinker, you know? And I think it's a beautiful thing to have his work and his words and his kind of his mind still with us. And I look forward to watching the show, and I'm sure you're doing incredible work in it. So you working on that show, you're doing a lot of your hip hop theater work, and you've done that on so many shows like Pied Piper as well. How did you get into hip hop, and how did you get into mixing hip hop and theater? Like where did that all come from?
Yeah, I mean, it was a kind of organic process, but I love music and I love rap. And like I just remember on the estate where I lived, just like banging like hip hop tunes, and that's the kind of music you'd hear a lot of hip hop. Also, you used to hear a lot of reggae in the UK because we had a big reggae culture. And I remember just like loving I quite like X-rated rap, like gangster rap, and like because people think, oh, you must be. I love conscious rap, quote unquote, what's called conscious, but I don't know. There's something about living on the estate, the environment you living in, the aggression. It was like cathartic. I didn't know at the time as a kid, you don't know, but you're thinking, why am I listening to the most like hardcore, fucking violent rhymes?
Yeah.
Why do I need this? But it's because it's an outlet, and like that's the shit you're dealing with, and it was the only thing that could express really what I was feeling, what I was going through.
Right.
And because it's like, global majority people from around the world involved in hip hop, right? And it's like those experiences of people on the periphery talking about those kind of outside of experiences, fighting up against the establishment, that is related to those things, as well as like the crime and the wanting to get out, dying to get out. And but at the same time, I would watch TV and like I'd seen theatre. My social worker had taken me to the theatre, and I told her that like the only time I feel good about myself is when I'm doing music, when I'm thinking about theatre. My family are not performing is not theatre and is not their background.
Right.
Obviously they like music, but it's not it's not, we don't come from that. And then my social worker told me about the Brit School, and I even know about that. I remember starting the Brit School, which is a school in Croydon. I remember people laughing at me because I didn't know what the Brit Awards were. Because everyone that got in, this is once I got in.
Right.
I remember laughing at me, but you're in the school, you don't know what it is. And I'm thinking, my parents sitting down watching rich people give each other awards. Do you think that's going to fly? No, we're not watching that. I probably want to watch it.
Right.
But I didn't know what it was. So I was quite oblivious. I probably learnt more going to the Brit than anyone did in my year group because of the culture change of like going from like, from where I came from, my parents don't have that sort of background. My mum I had a teenage parent. My dad came here from India when he was 20 years old. So it was like, I didn't have all the theatre and poetry and all the things that other people had. My poetry was Machiavelli.
Yeah.
Like that, Tupac. And, Out There Brothers, I don't know if anyone remembers them, but they were pretty hardcore. Going there, and then I thought theatre was incredible. I thought the people telling their stories, the actual stories people were telling, I thought was usually quite shit. Because it didn't tell my story and it didn't relate to those stories. But learning about the form of it and seeing the potential and how it changed society, how it changed culture, Ibsen, Strindberg, the way they, how they looked at women and things like that, I was thinking, wow, this is all good and that, yeah. But what about like our stories?
Right.
What about working class people? What about migrant people? What about these other stories? Because they're not told. I don't hear them. And I just always had this thing in my mind of like, what if we were to fuse the voices, the music of the estate with this? And actually I remember at Brit, like once I'd finished, I went back there, I got all these printouts of like different pictures of like lyrics and rappers and like, I was working, so I got a printer, I printed out all these different ideas to say that I wanted to fuse hip hop and theatre together, which now doesn't sound so crazy, but it's quite crazy at the time.
Right.
Because I remember people saying to me like, they don't want to see all this stuff in the theatre. But I went back to the Brit School and the teacher shut me down. He was like, this will never happen. This will never happen.
Wow.
And he was like, you're not American and this is Britain. We don't want this.
Wow.
And it was like, wow, like, okay, I thought this was like a open-minded space, experimental space. Really, because how education works is you're taught in how people already done it. But they don't recognize new shit when they see it in front of them. And you're thinking, I thought this was what you would taught us to do.
I know, it's kind of an interesting thing, right? Even within creative spaces, people are still quite close-minded, when you think about a show like Hamilton.
Yeah. Dope show, I love Hamilton.
Yeah, but like, I can only imagine what people were saying when he was trying to pitch that idea. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
You're like a rap musical about the founding fathers.
Yes.
What? And he made billions,
Billions. When I first read about it, and I remember reading about it in a rap magazine, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Based on American history, president, what is this? But then when I saw it, and when I heard it first, and I was like, oh no, this is incredible. Yeah. This is incredible. And it's what kind of, similar to what I was trying to do and have been doing. Right. But like in a different, on a Broadway level, like the craft that goes into that show is incredible.
Oh yeah, I mean, from the dancing to the rapping to just everything. I mean, we had Joss Terrera on.
Yes. Big man.
Big man who killed that show, killed that role, and won an Olivier for it. So it was just kind of amazing to just hear all about it. So when you went to the Brit School, they weren't receptive of it, but when did it start to click? When do you start to kind of see it take?
I went to the Battersea Arts Centre and got involved there. Actually, I went to South Thames College and I met like some people, and because we were young, mixing rap and theatre didn't feel sacrilegious like it did to other people. Like, what are you doing? You're messing around. Right. I remember me and my friend Junior were laughing about it the other day, like what we get paid for now. He's in Pied Piper, getting told that we're just fucking around, you're being stupid. But it's like, we were always mixing like rap with our performances. Like, it's weird what we used to get told off for. I think there was something about that rub. about the whole like you're messing around. I was always quite a contrarian. I didn't realize it. I thought like at the time, but now looking back, I'm like, cause I was constantly. And when I went to uni, I was doing the same thing. And I was at Battersea Arts Centre, I was experimenting with these forms and actually getting in trouble there as well. Because in the youth sessions there, we were told you're messing about, like you're being stupid. And they just said they said to us, oh, go. Why don't you find a different space here at BAC and you and your little crew can do that thing separate from the theatre group? But it was actually to separate us because they said that we were a problem. And they were like, oh, the other young people are making complaints. Now I realise a lot of that was racial and class profiling because we thought that we were being just as experimental as everyone else.
Right.
Like, you guys are rolling on the floor, pouring cornflakes on your head. All we do is start rapping and everyone's getting scared. Actually scared and saying this is violent. But we're not even rapping hardcore lyrics. But there's something about hearing people in our bodies and frames doing art forms that makes them scared. Yeah, we started doing my own thing. And I think the whole thing about giving us our own space, because I was learning about other theatre makers at BAC and at uni, I was realising, well, all the people that I'm thinking, oh, that's exciting in their stories, they were also getting banned, ostracised, and I was thinking, and I made a show that was banned, and I was thinking, this is probably supposed to happen.
Yeah. What was the show that you made that got banned?
It was actually got a controversial title. It was called Hitler Wrote 20 Pop Songs. Have you heard them? It's an absurdist political play. It was banned because we were attacking the government at the time, which was Tony Blair's government, and people were like, you shouldn't be attacking a Labour government. But obviously, the Labour government was attacking other countries, an invading country where, you know, people look like me, basically.
Right.
And I just thought, like, why not attack? Like, it's a racist government. But, you know, people were quite annoyed by the show. Also, because we used the swastika on Tony Blair to say that he's just a fucking Nazi. Obviously, it was, you know, very. Now at the time, it felt very radical. Now you look back and think, well, that's all a bit obvious in it. But it was at the time, it was quite radical because we had, you know, the stage wrote a zero star review on the show, which I've never seen done before or since, and now that's been rescinded, taken offline. And we had people write saying that, like, they don't expect to go in and see the jungle put on stage. We were just rapping. We were just in normal clothes. Wow. So where was the jungle? Where was that shit? It caused quite a furore. The ASA, the Advertising Standards Agency, banned all of our material because we used the image of Tony Blair. We put a Hitler moustache on him. But now I just think, wow, like, I was at uni and then getting banned and getting written about in the Metro, which was the biggest read paper in London, The Guardian, the Evening Standard. I didn't even know, when it comes to all that stuff, I didn't know what I was doing. We're just making art. Right. And I think it was those things that was making me think, I think I'm onto something because...
Yeah, because that is what art is. Definitely a big part of art is. It's about really questioning and kind of being a rebel. So you're definitely doing the right thing. Yeah. I mean, and now you're doing your thing. So you're definitely on the right path.
Yeah. That was kind of the start of it.
Yeah. And then when did it really take off? When did you feel like, okay, I think people are starting to really see what we're doing now?
I think, like, I took quite a period of, I was still making things, but it was more like building and creating and like working out what is this that I'm doing now? What is the art form? And a lot of that was through beatboxing and rapping and fusing those things together with the Beatbox Academy at BSc, which I started it and then I run it. I still run it. And I think we had a show called Frankenstein that came out, and we were the highest rated show at the Edinburgh Festival. Out all them shows, the biggest festival in the world, and won Total Theatre Award, the Fringe Theatre Awards, and the Off West End Award. And I think that moment, even though it took 10 years to get there from Hitler to there, it took 10 years. So it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. All of that learning, that was kind of a moment. I always knew like whatever show we put out for the first time under that banner, Beatbox Academy, and when people saw it and heard it, I always knew it'd be big. So like whatever we chose for it. Because what we were doing in those rehearsal rooms and those back corridors and like smelly old theatres, I knew this is amazing. This is more exciting than what's in the main space. Right. But once the gaze of the industry sees what we're doing, we're going to excite people. And that happened. I wasn't surprised, because when you work on something for 10 years, you know there's something that's... And when people would even just look at little glimpses of it, it's like, what are you guys doing here? Yeah. What? There's all these young people like, bang, harmonizing, beatboxing, rapping live. Like, we went on the Gareth Malone show on BBC One, and he said there's nothing I can really show you guys because we don't use pitch pipes. We don't use that because we ain't got that. We ain't know about that.
Right.
He's like, how are you guys just finding pitch and just doing it bang from the spot? It's like, because we just rehearse. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I was like a drill sergeant. I was like, again.
What was the show about, if you want to talk about
The show, well, it was based on Frankenstein, but it was about how monsters are created in society and how people are monsters, kind of like othered, and like the monster through the media, through the perceptions of people. And like, you create the monsters. Frankenstein created the monster and didn't want to deal with his responsibility. Let it go nuts.
Yep.
And it's like, you know, people put us in these institutions or the way they treat us or whatever. And then when we speak back, when we make some art, when we do these things, we get shut down, we get banned, we get something. We're wrong. So that's really what it's really about. But through verse and beats and all those things.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. Can't wait to hear, you know, what you're gonna share with us later. So then after that, you know, people started to notice you and notice the work that you do. What was the shift like? What did you start seeing happening?
I mean, a lot of press, a lot of different things like that. More opportunities. People would say, hey, can you come and do your thing over here? So people would want a flavor of the beatboxing and the rap element on their shows. And you notice that more people have those elements in their shows because people realize, oh, that's what's possible. Because our show is quite extreme. For the whole thing to be beatbox, the whole thing to be rap, most people in their show will want an element of that. That's not the whole shebang. So part of it is just like, you know, as well as working my own work, I've worked with other people and helped them to kind of to do that. And also, like, because of the way that I find artists and performers is like in the community, is through like workshops and like trying to find ways to encourage people who are probably incredibly talented, but we need other people in these rooms to create these other talents. If it wasn't for my social work, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. So I know that it's like it's those odd interactions to get people in. You think, wow, like the talents that come out are often quite different, and it's gonna sound different. So I often like help people run workshops, community choruses, things like that, or be part of their production to kind of help and foster those things, engender those things, to make sure that, like, because people want to talk about community, people want to talk about being diverse, but they're not, because often it's the same class of people getting the same roles, and I want to always challenge that and be like, where are the people we're not seeing? Right.
Yeah. Well, it's a movement, and you seem like you've always had that in you, you know, that hunger and that drive to kind of like see yourself in the work, which is amazing. So after that, what would you say was the next big thing, at least in your career?
Well, Frankenstein was made into a film for the BBC, which was big, and then Pied Piper is again, we 5-star reviews. We won the Off-West End Award, and it's still on tour. Like years after we made it.
What is it about? And if you wanna, you can also show it.
It's published. Big up Bloomsbury, my publisher. I mean, it's all sung through beatbox, rap through, and it's about the power of art, the power of creativity, and like finding your voice. But using the story of the Pied Piper, who, you know, Pied Piper gets tricked, and he gets treated bad by the system, but he's not necessarily a good guy himself because he wants revenge. But it's about using, you know what it is? We have a lot of false idols these days that come along. They show music, they show the example. We find that they're monsters. And that's like the Pied Piper, and even in the original story. Actually, it's about using some of that example. There are some good to some of these monsters, but then using that in a more fair, social way, and we're all sharing that responsibility and using that art to fight against a system or change the system. It's not always a fight. It's just we want evolution. We want to change this. Sometimes it's a fight, you know, but that's what it's about, finding your voice, but through like incredible vocals that we've got like, you know, champion beatboxers on the show, incredible like vocalists, like people that, you know, will do this show and then be like leads and other like they're finding their, while like to me, just finding people that are already incredible and known is redundant. It's about using the show as a platform to find those people and build them up, and I want to see them out in the world doing other incredible things. So you know, these are like the stars of tomorrow. So I usually beatbox this like on a loop station, but I'm fitting it to the guitar. You never had no books in my house. We only had some crooks in the house. My family, everything to me. We never had no hope in the yard. I spent my evenings talking to God. Well, Lord, can't you see my family? Thinking about the day when Packy bashing was all the rage. I watched my dad come home, his head split open, he was in pain. I was so confused, my mom looked at me and said that could be you. From that day, I knew what I would have to do. Cover my face, cover my shame, cover my skin, protect my name. I hated my dad for being brown, he was to blame. I used to pray to be white, wanting to be right. Watched my dad's head pissing my blood that night. We never had no books in the house. We only had some crooks in the house. My family, they're the only thing to me. We never had no hope in the yard. I spent my evenings talking to God. Lord, can't you see my family? I never had deference from my own mum, cause she was so young, a runaway teen. It's funny cause I knew it before she was 18. I was 5 years old, sitting on my own in the flat in the cold, writing on walls, pissing on floors. I remember opening drawers and throwing shit about. I'm putting old medicine still on my brother's mouth. He nearly died. Sitting in the hospital, watching my mum cry. Yo, watching my mum cry. We never had no books in the house. We only had some crooks in the house. My family is the only thing. We never had no hope in the yard. I spent my evening talking to God. Well, Lord, can't you see my family?
So cool, man.
Thanks, bro.
That was awesome, bro. That was beautiful. That was deep as well.
Yeah, such a jam it up.
Thank you so much, bro. I love that. You want more water?
Nah, I'm all good.
Yeah, you're good. Oh man, that was. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. That was
No,
deep and
thank you.
beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Bro.
I've never performed like that before, but I thought.
Yeah. Oh,
Jam it.
absolutely. I'm absolutely fucking literally. That's gonna be cool, man. Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
You actually surprised me. Well, you're finding them. That's kind of your way of giving back as well, you know, which is pretty cool. And I believe you're working on taking this on tour right now.
Yeah. We're on tour. Big up to Arcade, our tour producers.
Nice.
Where UK?
Yeah, where are you going?
So Leeds Playhouse. Big up to them, Leeds Playhouse. We're going to Derby Theatre, Medway, the Glass Box Theatre.
Nice.
Jumped up, quite a few different places.
That's pretty cool. I think it might be interesting to try and see if you can even take it to like the States or places like that.
Would love to do that because Frankenstein was due to go to Brazil, to North America, Sydney Opera House.
Nice.
But COVID stopped that. So to be honest, I feel like because there's there's only so many, because I'm co-producer of the show and composer and director and running the sessions for all the beginners, and like how many of these shows can you create from scratch? Because it's not just a show, it's a platform and a whole thing. And I feel like that the Frankenstein tour, international tour, being curtailed, it's quite a big deal, to be honest, to know you're going to Brazil and then Sydney Opera House. I mean, starting that again with Piper, it's kind of mad because not many people do so many of these big things from scratch. Yeah. But hey, you have to do it because the show itself creates so many opportunities for so many people, as well as being a piece of art. So I would love to go to America. I would love to go to the States, and we've had talks with some people in Canada, and it's just about when the time is right. And it's a big logistical feat, obviously take a show abroad. We took Frankenstein to to Australia, which was we went Adelaide Festival. We won the top awards there.
That's pretty awesome.
It's pretty mad.
Yeah,
pretty mad.
yeah.
But yeah, so Piper and and Peter Pan, which will be the next what I've written first draft.
Oh, nice. You want to talk about that? So you're working on Peter Pan?
Yeah, Peter Pan is all beatbox, raps. It's gonna be. I've written it for the Polka Theatre, which is a theatre for children and young people and families. It'll be their family Christmas show, and it's like people are used to their pantos, whatever, but they're not used to Machiavelli in their Christmas show. And it's about giving them that because the Polka Theatre is an incredible space. I went there as a kid, but it's in South London. It's in Wimbledon. And like, okay, everyone knows about Wimbledon. It's got some wealthy families, but I'm from Mitcham, which is like the east side of the borough. It's like poverty. It's like, it's lots of these things. I love it. I love Mitcham. I love Croydon, but there are issues there, and there's not a lot of things to do, and there's crime. And it's about, again, always trying to tell those stories, bring those bodies into that space, and those words used in the story of Peter Pan, which is incredible. The fact that I get to work in that sandbox and Concord, who own the rights to it, they just bought Hamilton. Like, knowing that like it's an official adaptation is incredible. To be like, wow, these are part of like culture, like world culture, and I'm getting to play with this IP. I mean, I got to pay my royalties, but but I get to do it, and I get to make these characters to rap, and I get to make them to look different and sound different, and it's a privilege to do that, but also they're lucky that they got me doing it. And they're going to be lucky that the performance that we get on there to see them and hear them.
It's going to be great. I mean, you should be proud of yourself, man. You're doing very well.
I'm trying, bro. I'm trying. It's just always a hustle, bro.
It always is, especially in the arts, because it's not given to you. You know what I'm saying? And I think especially when you're trying to create something new.
Yeah.
We were saying earlier, it's like you're fighting against the system in some ways. You are trying to create something new in a space that's meant to be creative, but you constantly have to kind of prove yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be challenging. But you're doing it. You're doing it.
Reinvent that wheel. Reinvent the wheel. Yeah. Make fire.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. So what inspires you? So what? Who did you? I know you mentioned some of the people that you listen to, but how do you go about coming up with a new show, with a new idea? Because you say you do a lot of stuff from scratch.
Yeah.
And how do you kind of come up with like the inspiration of the beatboxing element of the rap? Like kind of like where do you draw from?
Well, I listen to albums. I watch movies, watch plays, I read books. I try and get the inspirations from places that are obviously not what I want to make, just other areas. As I say, I collect action figures. So like, I just each figure tells a story, the way it's crafted and molded and painted. And I just try and think about, the wonder of a young person looking at a figure or looking at a comic book or whatever, and like, how can that fuse into these interesting cultural stories that I want to tell and make it so like it's so engaging and magical. But somehow they're getting that essence of like, we are the kids from council estates, and we're gonna make it somehow. I need to deep things to try and convey, and if it's too deep, you don't want people to switch off.
Right.
So I just try and find what's exciting. What am I gonna think? This looks cool. This feels cool. And kids want to feel like what they saw is a bit naughty. They want to feel that it's like, wow, it was mad fighting, and it almost felt like swearing, but it wasn't. That's what kids. Do you know what I mean? If you make it too fluffy, kids don't. That's not cool for kids. They forget about it.
Yeah.
So I always feel, what do I like as a kid? And it's like them things where you felt like you saw. Well, I think adults are supposed to see this, and they, it was made for young people.
Yeah.
But you want to feel like, this is like just about cutting edge, being cutting edge and
I kind of want to see how your brain works though. So can you give me an example of like how you go from like an action figure to like like in the past? So like maybe is there like an example of one action figure? And
like partly it's like sometimes it's about like I'll look and think what is the exciting? And it could be like the strength of a figure or the violence of a figure, and think like, how can that be a moment where someone can be watching and it's somehow violent, or the way that it looks. Often a figure will have a bit of grey in its hair, so often they'll do that to say it's got a story, there's a backstory, it's not just perfect. Or have a scar on its face, or it's overly muscled to show the power that someone can have, but often that character will have a secret identity or have something else about it, and maybe what we're seeing with the muscles, the real person is Prince Adams, not He-Man. That's the real guy. So it's about making these connections, and then in just a roundabout way, thinking how can I connect this essence and make it just as inspiring, so someone wants to go home and it somehow lasts with them somehow. You know, could be a sword, or it could be whatever. Just these big fantasies, these big. It's that always bring of us as humans. We've always liked these things. Sometimes we get really far away from stories.
Yeah.
You know, we like music. We like strong characters. We like people that do challenge things, but they're also vulnerable as well. And we like, you know, well-crafted things. It's just because it's for young people, it doesn't have to be shit. Like,
it doesn't have to be.
Like, sometimes it is. You watch things and you think, like, it's not. Like, I want to see, like, expertly crafted raps. I want to hear the music that you're like, wow, like that, to sing that harmony. And again, it's not the kids not thinking about the fucking harmony.
Yeah.
But I love it when we do Piper and someone, or I also worked on Unexpected Twist with James Descartes and Roy Williams. And Roy Williams, legend. And you know, when someone in the audience who would know my role, but I know people would say, wow, like they were singing that on stage live. All of that was live. And some of those tonal and chord shifts were quite intricate. And they asked me, are they using pitch pipes? And I say, oh no, they're just doing it. And like, you know, but when a kid might not be thinking that, or a young person or anyone might be thinking that, but that excellence is going in. Do you know what I mean? And these people on stage, I always make sure that it's not about the most trained person who went to RADA or whoever. I'm also not against those people either, because, you know, they also have programs to let different kinds of people in. It's about the excellence that comes from, we just rehearsed this. We can do this. And rapping is just as technical as opera. It's just as hard. And like, I know that for a fact because I've run auditions for rappers and people who can act and rap, and they can't do it. A lot of people can't do it. It's about just that excellence on stage for young people, and not patronizing them. Never ever patronizing them, because they know, they watch Disney, right?
Yeah.
Disney is the most expertly crafted art you can watch. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
How the hell can an adult watch this in tears and a kid watch it and be laughing?
Yeah.
That's to me, generally, Disney is like perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can look at the same story. It's almost like Shakespeare, you know, because you can look at the same story. When you're a kid, you know, like a Lion King or whatever, you know, and then you're an adult and you see it completely differently, you know, or you hear it differently, you know, you hear the moments differently, and you're like, wow, they're really thinking.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just for kids, you know, they're really good at what they do, you know.
And we watch those films over and over again, from we're children to adults.
Yeah.
And we see different stories, because that's how multi-layered they are.
Yeah.
And like, really, like I said, I often think to myself, it might be rap, it might be, you know, Nas, it might, that's, you know, but also I think it's got to have that pithiness of Disney. The way it's that it says so much in a short space of time. But let's be honest, those raps in Disney are not also simple raps. Lin-Manuel Miranda raps those songs.
Yeah.
When you hear the characters, I'm like, and they're kind of singing, but you're like, whoa, the kids are taking this in.
Yeah.
But when I'm like, you know, but in the past I've done some raps for some producers or whatever, and they're like, I don't understand this. I'm like, you listen to what your kids listen to on Disney Channel, because that is technical.
Yeah.
Who's writing them raps? Yeah, it's just about, sometimes it's what's difficult is I feel like the kids are more tuned in than producers.
Yeah, it's always that thing, right? Sometimes they don't even know who they're kind of doing their show for. But yeah, that's cool. So what would be the dream? Let's say you had money was not an issue, whatever, you had all the funding. What show would you work on, or what idea would you work on next?
I mean, do you know what? Like, an idea that's not very cool, but something I've always been trying to like just do research, and I have applied for some funding before that I didn't get, is to make a hip hop show, rap show, to tell this, but to also to tell the story of, through a current story and a historical story about the colonization of India. But obviously it's not a very sexy story to tell people. Yeah. But I've tried to, because a venue said to me they really want to work with me, that they were super excited, and I thought they seemed really excited. So let me just try and write a proposal together. I worked with my friend Fazan to put it together, but then they were like, this isn't the story. And I think it's because it wasn't, you know, previously I've worked on Piper, Romeo and Juliet, Frankenstein. This was all of a sudden, what the hell is this? What on earth? You want to talk about the British Raj? And I guess it's just something that like it's difficult because I just need to find a way to kind of do that, and I want it to be like an epic story.
That could be so cool because I actually had a similar idea, and I was thinking the same thing, but about more of colonization of Africa. But I thought it would be so cool if you had like the natives rapping,
Yes.
but then the colonizers like singing opera or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So you have like clash, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So like as like they're coming in and they're doing the operatic thing, and then the other's like, what is this? And they're just like rapping. Actually, just so it would be so cool, man.
National Theatre. We listen to this.
You know what I'm saying?
Hindu,
You never
what
know.
we
Hey. But I think it would be a really cool. And then like if you're fusing again the music from India and then making it like kind of contemporary, I think like there's so many places you can go with that. Yeah. I think.
So it's not a sexy idea, but it's just we have these kind of passionate ideas.
But I think it's sexy though. I think it's all about. I think it's very sexy. I can imagine the colors. I can imagine like the costumes. I can imagine like the sounds. If you make it contemporary, and still kind of keep that. I mean, like imagine when they're home by themselves, it has more of that Indian traditional thing, But when they're coming together, it's like, and then you have like the older people generation, the younger generation.
Yes.
You have the younger generation, like their songs, their beats or their rhythms are a bit more, modern. And a bit more like maybe hip hop, whatever. Whereas like the older generation is a bit more traditional. I think it could be like really exciting. I think it's sexy. I think it's just about how you put it together, like everything. But I think it's.
I mean, it'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. And I think these are kind of like epic stories because we don't get a lot of those stories anymore where you have like in Shakespeare, like there's fighting on stage, there's romance, there's dancing, like it's like layers. There's so much happening.
Yes.
I think with a story like that, you can also have that.
I quite like epic stories, classic stories. And like I feel like we're just missing that sometimes. And also I do, I like a kitchen sink drama is cool and it's cool. But like what, I think being someone who's working class from a global majority, the expectation is that like we tell very small stories, and that's okay, it's fine. Like, but what about me telling your story?
Yeah.
Because you want to tell mine. You've been telling them.
Yeah.
But then when it's our chance to tell a story, often they have an idea of what we should be saying. And that's quite a hard challenge. They don't like the system is hard to get around. We looked at in a completely different gaze. You get to do something else. Yeah. If I say I want to make Love Actually, my own version, you're gonna tell me that it's got to be like this, be like this, be like this. But if I say no, I just want to make a classic movie, man, about some people falling in love and relationships, that's not gonna fly. Because I had this. I was working with a film company, and continuously they would say, "But how does this directly relate to you being Indian, to being mixed race, to being directly working class?" And I say, let me tell the story first, and then we'll decide. Because if you're doing that, I've seen a lot of people they've tried and failed because you can see that the producers and people have made them have to wear that on the film sleeve.
Yeah, it's just the nature of like getting these things done. You have to apply for funding, and it has to be through a certain lens, what you're trying to say, who you're trying to talk to. It has to be very specific. It's quite annoying sometimes because I feel like that stuff would come through even if you didn't try, right? Because
that's who I am.
Yeah, exactly. That's your heritage. That's your experience. That's what you grew up listening to, eating, whatever. Like it would come up, and it would be very different from if I did.
Definitely eating curry is the best food in the world.
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying sometimes people can be, and it can kind of ruin it as well. If everything you're doing is about the message.
It ruins it. No, people stop listening.
Yeah, because it's like everything you're just constantly just messaging. It's like very annoying. Yeah. That's why I actually prefer a lot of the older stuff, a lot of older movies and stuff, because it wasn't always about that. I mean, there's a message,
but it's clever. It's subtle.
Yeah.
It's subtle. And also some like the author of who makes stuff is important. And sometimes you gotta ask yourself, oh, why would he tell this story? I wonder what this meant to him.
Yeah.
And that like we're intelligent people.
Yeah,
we're humans. We can use our brains, but it's a lot of this is unfortunately it is systemic racism because it's patronizing, and it's like they can only see us through a certain lens, and we can only see ourselves through a certain lens, and it's just. Again, there are a lot of well-meaning people out there, but sometimes it's just you're hitting people over the head with quote unquote the message, and it's like, yo, I got messages, man.
Yeah.
Just if you let us do what we want to do, they will be there.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more political than seeing mans like me from a state make some money.
Yeah. I know. And the funny thing is that when it does happen, like Sinners, for instance, like when it does happen, Black Panther, like when it does happen, you let people do it and it works. Like it's incredible because people are like, what? What is this? I mean, even Hamilton. It's like, it's just people are just not open to things, you know?
It changes paradigms.
Yeah.
It changes shit. Frankenstein. People are just so scared to take that first step. And then when you want to change things again, can you do that one again?
Yeah.
Can you do that again? It's like, no, this is different now. This is different now. I'm gonna keep changing.
Yeah.
No.
And I get it though, because it's money and they want to make sure there's a return on investment, and you know, they only want to go by what has worked before. So like it makes sense. Come on, it's the arts, you know. The whole point of it is to
make shit.
Yeah.
Make shit. Like Wizard of Oz was a flop.
Yeah.
Flop. Look at Wicked now. But Wizard of Oz was an actual flop. It ended people's careers. Complete flop. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Gene Wilder version. Classic film. Excellent acting, performing by Gene Wilder. Great. Complete flop. He didn't like talking about it. Embarrassing. These are classic movies. They play over and over again. They've informed new movies, other people, because sometimes art's work is the making of it is what's worthwhile. It annoys me. I know, like it's a cliche, but people have got obsessed with how much money did this film make, how much money this out. I don't give a fuck, man. How many people did it inspire? Because I actually feel like the revenue that comes in different ways. And I know that, like, you know, they might say, well, what about the people that put the money in? These people have got money. We know that they know how to get kickbacks. So we know that it's financially beneficial for them to say these things flop. They actually lie. They say they flop, so they haven't got to pay shareholders money. So I don't care about it when people say, oh, that flop. Of course it didn't flop, man. Everyone's talking about the movie. Like, do you know what I mean? And some of them make big dough. If Sinners make that big dough, it probably made even more dough because they put the numbers down. Because otherwise they've got to pay everyone back more money.
I mean, for sure, there's definitely stuff happening in the back, you know, that people aren't privy to, you know?
Oh yeah, I know, I can't talk about them things, but I know in the arts, them things happen. You know what I'm saying? They're robbing us. No, anyway.
I wanted to talk a bit more about your heritage. So what was it like growing up in a house with a father from India and a mother? Where's your mother from?
She's from England.
Yeah. And what was that like? You know, what did you...
Shit, no. I mean, no, it was hard. It was hard because I'm a millennial. The world now is very different to how I grew up. You were more embarrassed about your heritage at school, and like, is because you, for me, but personally, you're not being mixed. And also because we're Christian, we wasn't. You're not going to be Indian enough to be Indian, and you're not white enough to be white. And I'm sure a lot of people relate. To be honest, a lot of people relate to that issue with being a migrant, even because you're not. You where do you fit in? Where do you belong? Yeah. And it's like I was born here, but people treat you like you're not really meant to be here. So it was hard. You know, I feel embarrassed for how if my dad would pick me up from school or take me places and my friends would see me, I would feel embarrassed because they're at school now, they're gonna say Paki, you're a smelly Paki. And like, you know, I do feel ashamed for how I felt, but I was only a kid. So I let myself off the hook. That was tough. That was tough. And like now, I got a daughter now, and like, I'm gonna be that annoying parent because she's gonna be annoying people because my wife, family are from Jamaica, my family from India. She's gonna know about that, and she's gonna know, and she's gonna be so proud of it that people are gonna be so annoyed because they're gonna be like, well, your parents are born here, and it's like, yeah, because unfortunately it takes that first generation who go through all that shit. Like, I kind of get it because I got friends who their parents were both born here, but I'm like, how come you're so open with who you are and like, you know, even more on it? And I get it now. I've got a kid. I'm like, because I'm going to be telling you, because I don't want you to feel like how I felt. I want you to be proud. And it's like, I'm proud now. My dad's dead now, so like, it helps you to see things in a different way. To be like, wow, the shit that he put up, that he went through was hard. But now I'm thankful for all these things because I'm like, wow, like he was dealing with, at the same time as I was dealing with becoming a human, my dad was still getting used to being here in this country. He was still having to deal with racism, and I just wanted a dad. So I remember hearing these things, and you know, he got beat up. He would tell me about Paki bashing. You know, this is the 80s. Like the country was very different. I feel like people wouldn't recognize what it was like. You know, I remember there was Paki's out was written on the wall where we lived. Like, and even in Mitcham there was a massive sign saying Wogs out for years. Oh, sorry, I thought my phone was on silent. For years and years, that was on the wall, and and like no one took it down, and like it's like those things, because you're reminded that there are people who don't like you, and like it gives you a certain level of self-hate. I've always felt, even at school and growing up, that people hated me, and like because when you would say, "Oh, my dad's from India," even people who weren't white would still say, "Pakis, smelly Pakis." It'd just be like, "Fuck, like what? Where do you fit in?" And then the thing is, I would make like Indian friends, Pakistani friends, but the tricky thing is because I was a minority. We're a minority in a minority because they're Christian. I remember as a kid being so annoyed at my mum, like, because everyone at school was saying, "Where's your Paki shop? Where's your restaurant?" We don't have that. I wish I had that. And like, they don't even like. My dad couldn't get a job in a restaurant because he's the wrong religion. Like these things are quite technical. People, but people want to band you together. They want so those things were hard, but I'm glad for those hardships. And the thing is, my dad was very much an Indian dad, so like he was strict, and like we knew right from wrong. I might have been a little shit as a teenager, but I knew what was right from wrong. And like he was very moralistic. And I'm so thankful for that, because we're always very polite. Me and my brother, please and thank you and all those things. I mean, I'm the fact that my dad came here, made a life, and like my dad was a great chef. He loved cooking, so he would cook lots of different curries. Like just there's some of the experiences I'm like now I'm just like I'm so proud of them, and like he like I was often quite mad at him, my dad, for no reason. And I remember as a kid, him, and it's embarrassing, but I can't be the only person that has had to go through these kind of this affront to who you are. It was tough. And like you turn on TV and there's no singers who were Indian. There was no lead actors. It would be like the fool or the person who worked in the shop or someone got beat up. So it's like that's really difficult.
How do you see yourself?
It's really hard. And like
you
know what, I got into it on Twitter one time because Rishi Sunak was the Prime Minister. Now, I don't vote Tory, but I'm like, and this is the post that I made, but what's really difficult for me is, I get a lot of Ubers and chat to cab drivers in Rare, and I'm like, even the drivers who don't like Rishi, what he stands for, there's something about, he looks like my family, and being that he could be the Prime Minister, that's great. That's great. But people don't want to have a nuanced conversation. And I vote Labour, but it was just, I don't know. When you're growing up, you need those things.
You need to see yourself. I mean,
it's horrible because I don't want to sound like I said, the message. But some of these things are just my life was always trying to find out, where do I see myself in the picture? Because there's no one. There's no one, like, not only there aren't many racially ambiguous people from a working class background. There's no Asian people. Like, it's very hard to find yourself in a group. And ultimately, you got to be a good human. But it takes a whole lifetime to get over some of these things. And now I'm just like, my role is to like be excited about who I am and let other people be who they are. But for me to get what I've got, it wasn't easy. It was actually quite hard. Like it was tricky. But that's what it's like for a lot of people. I think it's like, especially like with you've personally you've come from another country, or your family from another country. How do you see yourself? How do you fit in? And then it's just the cultural things and the religions from back home and all those things. That's not easy.
Speaking of that, then, what advice would you give a young person now, or like a younger version of yourself?
I should have just fucking own your shit, be yourself. Like, I'm the best version of me. I always was. But I always felt like I was hiding. Because people would say, "Oh, where you from?" I said, Mitcham. And you wouldn't want to say. And I met some other people who, when they would say where they're from, in like a workshop or class or whatever, I immediately knew, oh, you're embarrassed where you're from. Because they would say London. Or they'd just say, and I think because people don't say that. And I met other people who were also mixed race Indian, who I remember saying to a friend of mine in the past, is your family Indian? And yeah, why? And I was like, because why did you say you're from Beckenham? What? and then talking to them, it was like the same experiences at school, the same things. It was like people.
I mean, that's the thing. As human beings, we're social beings, and we want to belong. And for most of history, we have always belonged to specific groups. But as we've migrated and the world has gotten bigger and more global and everything, that has shifted. Our communities are not as homogeneous as they used to be, and which is why it's important to kind of have these images and these inspiring stories, because kids need it. We all need it. We need the heroes. We need the villains. We need to see ourselves, see what's possible. If he can do it, then maybe I can. And it is, when you don't have that, you're kind of working extra hard. So which is why it's important to have podcasts like this.
Yes.
Yeah. Where people get to like meet people like yourselves and other people who may be different but who are doing their thing and doing very well, and they can be inspired to be like, oh, then it is possible, then I can do it.
Yeah.
So it is. That's what we try to do.
And in my plays, I always will mention that the character is Indian or Anglo-Indian, because I want to put it in print.
Yeah.
I mentioned Mitcham, where I'm from. No one, Mitcham's in South London. People ain't heard of it. Let's get it in print.
Yeah.
Let's exist. I want to exist in literature. And it's like, fuck it. It's there now.
Yeah. That's good, man. No, man, you're so inspiring. Thank you so much for coming in.
No, thanks.
It's such a lovely conversation. We got really deep, and I look forward to coming to see Deep Azur.
Yes.
Yeah, and people, try and go see Pied Piper when he goes on tour, and
Peter Pan, the polka.
Yeah.
Christmas 2026.
Thank you so much, Conrad, and let's do it again.
Cool. Thank you, man. Cheers.
Yeah.
Yo, big up. Thank you, man.